Hey, today we're talking about the Pergear 14mm f2.8 lens. This is a full frame lens that I'm reviewing on the Sony E-mount today. And if you're going to use it on an APS-C body, it's going to act more like a 21mm type focal length. First of all, let's start checking out the lens and its details. Okay, here we are. This is the Pergear 14mm f2.8. That was the lens hood. It slides very easily off. It doesn't really exactly lock. This lens does come with a filter thread attachment, so we can go ahead, throw that on. Now, even as we place that on there, it doesn't actually lock on. It's very easy to twist on and off. So if you are nervous about your filters, just be aware that that does not lock onto the lens. So it can slide off. Now, quite a basic lens here today. We've got our focus ring. It's got a good amount of depth here to the grip, some good ridges going on here for grip. And I can say that this is quite heavily damped. Nice rotation. It's very, very smooth, but certainly on the firmer side. Now, if we take a look at our markings here, we're going to notice that they're just simply printed on. There's not any kind of dash to indicate a very exact or precise amount of measurement on the lens. So maybe that's something you'd like to see, but that is the focus ring right there. And other than that, we've got our aperture ring up top here. So the aperture ring goes from f2.8. The decimal is very, very small there. f2.8 all the way to f22. Now, something very interesting that I noticed is you can kind of half turn it past the actual final aperture stop. So that's f22. This is a clickable aperture ring, by the way. Click, click, and then you notice a half rotation past. This also happens on the other side. We've got f2.8 here, and we've got kind of that half click back. It's more on the f22 range. Maybe this is just the lens that I have, but a little bit of a odd characteristics, but hey, at a lower price point, you're gonna have some weird characteristics there. So that's the aperture ring. One more thing to note about the aperture ring. Here, whenever it's more wide open, we're at f2.8 right now. We've got 1, 2 clicks to change from marked stop to marked stop, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, and that is where that ends. From 5.6 all the way to 22, it's simply one click, one click, one click, one click each time. So it's not something that you can operate simply blindly by feel, unless you are, counting in your head how many clicks you've done from where you are. So that's a bit of an odd characteristics. But again, with a cheaper lens, you're going to get some weird things. We do not have any weather sealing of any type on this lens. And of course, because it's fully manual, there is no USB-C for future firmware updates, because what are you going to update? Everything is physical control. All right, let's move on to its specific features. And something to keep in mind is that this lens does cost $289. So let's talk just a little bit more about the aperture ring and the focus ring. The aperture ring had kind of a unique, and this is certainly not intentional, but you saw in the close-up there when we were going over the details of the lens that I could rotate the aperture ring past f22, like a half click past, and it actually closes the aperture a little bit more. On the other side, I could also rotate a little bit past f2.8. That doesn't open it up anymore, but going past f22 does close down the aperture a little bit more. So that's a little bit of a weird thing to know. I don't know if maybe this is just on the lens that I have. If you own this lens and you noticed kind of the same odd manufacturing error, please let us know. Does yours close down more than f22 whenever you are able to half rotate it past? Let us know. Or did I just kind of get a weird one-off? I'm assuming that all the lenses would be the same, but hey, sometimes some funny things can happen. Talking about chromatic aberrations, this actually put it in an exceptional performance. So our subject is in front of a blown out window and the lens doesn't even flinch at it. I wasn't genuinely, I wasn't expecting such a clean result at all. I was expecting some CAs to show up here, but Pergear definitely surpassed expectations and did very well to prove me wrong. So very clean image coming through here. When it comes to focus breathing is noticeable, but it's not excessively jarring. So everybody has kind of their different limit on how much focus breathing is acceptable. So if this surpasses your limit, you can see it. Okay, let's wrap this review up. It's a shorter review today because this lens doesn't have a whole bunch of features. It's an aperture ring, focus ring, and that is your whole lens. Everything is manual, just like your grandpa's days. Now, overall, it produced some quite clean images, and to be fair, I had some nice scenery to work with some really beautiful lighting on top of that. So that makes the images look quite good. But this lens put in a better than expected performance. It does carry some odd characteristics, but I think if you're going to purchase a lens that's on the cheaper side of things, then you have to go in understanding that there's going to be some unique oddities that are going to go along with it. So overall, this is quite a decent lens. It did surprise me in certain ways. It is quite compact, but it's definitely not the lightest lens. Not that it's excessively heavy, but it is heavy. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It's very basic in its function. But if you're looking for an ultra-wide manual lens for the Sony E-mount, I can tell you that this put in a pretty good performance. If you are going to be using it for video, this is a video-centric channel. If you're using this lens for video, make sure your camera has IBIS, or else things are going to be quite jittery. I will close this out with one last thing, just to note and to compare. So this lens is $290. I have just reviewed several other wide angle lenses, and I'm going to link them up here so you can go and check and compare and contrast the different lenses, the different price points. These were two lenses that I was very impressed with. They are both from Viltrox, both released this year. One of them is the Viltrox 20mm f2.8, and that comes in at $158, and that has autofocus. So if you're looking for an autofocus lens and you're fine with going a little narrower than 14mm, then that isn't an option. And another option I'm going to put out there is a Viltrox 16mm. This also has autofocus. It's a f1.8 lens, $550. It's a little bit more pricey, but if you want to, really stay at that more wide angle focal length and you want autofocus, that was another quite good lens as well. So I'll leave those reviews there. If this lens, the Pergear 14mm, fits all your needs and your requirements, then the purchasing link is down below. If it doesn't, go check out those other ones. I think you will enjoy them. That's it. That's all I have for you today. Take care, have a wonderful day, and remember to let the light in.